Jim Edwards here for MMALatestNews.com. I'm joined here by my colleague Matthew Wells, also of MMALatestNews.com. We're here following the press conference for UFC 200 and the UFC 197 weigh-ins. Matt, let's start off with the UFC 200 press conference. What was that all about? Dana White obviously introducing Nate Diaz onto the stage, then saying they're looking for a new opponent for Nate, and then Nate simply saying, I don't want to fight anyone but Conor McGregor. What's going on here?
It's pretty confusing, isn't it? And when we all piled into the arena here, we saw two empty seats next to Dana White's podium. And the big question is, who's filling those seats? Obviously, the rumors of GSP coming out, Robbie Lawler coming out. But no, we see Nate Diaz take an empty seat with no one sitting across from him on the other side of the stage. It's very confusing. I don't know what's going on. And then we hear, Ariel Helwani and other journalists asking Dana, what's going on here? Why are we not making this fight when Nate wants to fight, Conor wants to fight, all the fans want the fight? Why not just make the fight? It's pretty confusing.
Yeah, it certainly is. And what did you make of what Dana was saying about Conor McGregor? He said explicitly at one point that he's definitely not going to go back on the card, yet then he kind of made references to it later on that the situation was perhaps still open. What do you think of the situation yourself?
Personally, I think you got to leave the door open for it. I don't know if they're waiting for what happens tomorrow night with Jon Jones. I don't know if there's any better option than Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor at this point. Conor set the world on fire over the past couple of days with just one single tweet, and then kept following it up over the past couple of hours, sending out that tweet saying, props to everyone for showing up, but no one's made the company X amount of millions of dollars over the past few months. So I think at this point you have to put Conor McGregor on there. UFC's just got to swallow their pride and make it happen.
Do you think there's a situation where they could be double or bust? I mean, we could be looking at tomorrow OSP defeating Jon Jones, and if Conor McGregor doesn't come to terms with the UFC, they're going to be left without a big headline card for the biggest ever card they're ever putting on. Do you think that could possibly happen?
I think it could possibly happen. OSP is a dangerous opponent, and that would be the absolute worst scenario for the UFC right now. If Jon Jones loses, they've got no other potential spots to fill in for UFC 200 other than Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz. So they would have to make it happen at that point. But ideally, Jon Jones goes out there, comes out without a scratch, and then you can put him in there against DC for UFC 200, and then you've got a solid main event, which a lot of people would like and tune into.
Matt, there were 10 other people on that stage. Any other takeouts from what we just seen?
It was pretty interesting when Johanna and Claudia got into it for a little bit. They got a little catty there when they mentioned the show. And it doesn't take much to set those two off. So I'm really, really excited to see that fight when it does come around here in International Fight Week. And of course, Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar. How can you not be excited for that fight? I mean, it's obviously not the ideal fight. You want to see Conor McGregor in that mix fighting one of those two again. But that's such a great matchup. They're two so talented fighters. It's going to be an incredible matchup coming on UFC 200.
And looking at the UFC 197 preliminary card, we of course got my boy Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. He's taking on Dominic Steele. I've got really high hopes for Danny. I've seen him fight before several times before he entered the UFC, and obviously his first fight in the UFC with Nate Coy back in December, where he won obviously quite convincingly with a good submission in the first round. What do you make of this fight? How's it going to go down?
I'm hoping to see big things out of Danny once again. Back in December is very impressive. We saw him come out and really put on a very, very solid performance in that short amount of time. And for a guy to do that in his octagon debut, that says a lot. So I'm really looking to see if he can keep that momentum going into this fight tomorrow night at UFC 197.
And of course on the main card we've got some great fights as well. We've got Carla Esparza taking on Juliana Lima. We've got Anthony Pettis taking on Edson Barboza. And of course in the co-main event we've got the flyweight title on line. We've got Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson against Henry Cejudo. Can it happen? Can it possibly happen? Can Cejudo beat Johnson?
It could happen, but Mighty Mouse is so good. He is arguably the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. Henry Cejudo is a different type of guy that he's seen over his past couple of fights. He brings extreme talent to the wrestling side of things. So we could see the fight spent a lot of time on the ground, a lot of clinch work, a lot of close knit fighting. But to say Henry Cejudo is going to come out and beat Mighty Mouse Johnson is a big thing to say, and I don't know if I can commit to that 100% right now.
And what about the main event? Of course, we got the return of Jon Jones. What did you make of him a minute ago in the weigh-ins? He seemed so happy to be back.
Man, Jon Jones looks like a beast up there. The weigh-ins, he's so happy to be here. His attitude right now, he's on cloud 9. If anyone bets against Jon Jones tomorrow night, Good luck to you, because he looks very, very focused. He looks so happy to be here, and I'm excited to see him back in action for the most part. And if you're an OSP, better bring your A game tomorrow night.
I'm going to stick up for my man OSP here. He's got knockout power. He's super athletic. He's got a shot. Everyone has a shot. And tomorrow, it could be his time.
It could be. OSP he's a tall guy. He's a rangy guy. Those are the exact same type of people we've seen John Jones have problems with in the past. Alexander Gustafsson being his toughest fight to date. OSP is a long guy. He can get in and out. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Certainly is going to be interesting. It all kicks off tomorrow night at UFC 197 here in Las Vegas.